Welcome. We're live. I did not get a lot of sleep last night. What else is new? I never do. But here we are. People say I don't sleep, by the way. I don't know if you know that. They think that I'm a robot.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I very much well known actually for being a robot. But unfortunately, I'm not a robot. So we're back to take all of your questions. If you put them in the chat, I will answer them. Otherwise, I might answer them. Yeah. But other than that, I have a great guest today. I usually don't do the intros because, I'm not you. So I want you to tell the people about your work, anything you want to tell them. So it's all you.
Yeah, I'm Akash. You can find me at Twitter at YZR_fantasy. I started playing Dynasty fantasy football a year ago and started playing fantasy football a few years ago. And since then, I've joined the Bulletproof Fantasy Football team and I make content. I work in the Discord. We're always talking Dynasty fantasy football over there. So if you want to join the Bulletproof Fantasy Football Discord, you can find me there, and you can also find me on Twitter. You can ask me questions anytime, and I'm always on my phone, so I'll always answer them.
Yeah, I know a little bit about always being on my phone and always answering questions, but you're always there too. You give much more than I do. I give one word.
Yeah, I always try to give a good justification. I like talking about this stuff, so it helps.
No, I love that. I mean, people know that I like to interact on Twitter, but I'm not really a debater. I send people to other people if they really want to argue, because I'll do it, but it's not really my, my forte. I mostly just kind of talk about what I want to talk about and just let people, they can disagree if they want, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's fun. If people put questions in the chat, I'll stop talking. I know no one ever wants to hear me talk, so let's see. Okay, I have 23. Oh, okay, good. So we'll start. This is a good place to start because this came up last night. This has got to be, this is it, right?
Yeah.
For things this week, for like big injury maybes, we don't have a lot of maybes this week, right?
Yeah.
Not really, right? Am I forgetting anything?
No, not really. Everything normally.
The Collins situation is kind of was the biggest thing.
Which one?
Alex Collins.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Pete Carroll says he's going to play. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions about that. But right. We've known about that all week. We've known about that. We've had opportunity to plan for that, talk about that, think about that all week. Yeah. What we have not had an opportunity to plan for, and which is much more difficult for people, is this Darren Waller situation. So sometime last night, we got like a sleeper alert or whatever, being like Darren Waller's ankle was added to the injury report. And then last night, he was like, he's not feeling well. It's going to be a game time decision. So that's going to be inconvenient because they play, in the afternoon, the later window of games. So that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So let's say you had this situation that Brian has. Let's say you had Waller and Gesicki. Gesicki plays earlier, so you would have to choose now.
Yeah.
Would you replace Waller with Gesicki, given what you know at this time?
I try to be an optimist about these injuries and
in general or the day of, because those are not the same thing.
Right. I just in general, because it seems like he's gonna play based on.
It does not seem like he's gonna play to me. Just for the record, I predict he will not. I went back. I kept telling people he's gonna play, and then I went back and looked at what they said, and I was like, oh, no, he's not going to play. He's not going to play.
Yeah, so to give a quick answer, the safe option is Gesicki because he's seeing decently consistent volume excluding week 1 where he didn't do anything. But since then, it's been pretty good volume.
It's been good.
Yeah, it's been like 15 to 20% target share, and that'll get you like 6 to 8 targets, and he can make big plays. Ceiling play obviously is Waller because he's Darren Waller.
I mean, yeah, but he hasn't been Darren Waller since like week 2.
Yeah, it's strange. Their target shares are
very strange.
Waller's is a bit higher, but their target share has been similar. I think
Waller's a better player. We know that.
Right. The matchup is probably better for Gesicki, but
the matchup for Waller is pretty good. I mean,
definitely.
Everyone wants to play the Eagles.
Yeah, so being an optimist, I would say Waller, but I am not. I've not been as in tune with the whole injury that he has, just because I haven't been as active over the last 24 hours.
So typically, just to give people an idea, when someone is a late add to the injury report, they almost never play. Unless it's an illness. If it's illness, like what A.J. Brown had, there's a decent chance he could play. That's what happened last week. But if it's late add with an ankle, and remember, Darren Waller had an ankle injury in the preseason. So this is highly concerning. I would, at this point, given what I've looked at, I spent some time looking this up this morning, I think he's about 20% chance that he plays. Late add on Saturday, in the middle of the day Saturday, is very bad. Yeah. So I don't think this is a long-term issue, because if he still has any chance to play this week, he'll probably be good to go next week. But, when you get a quote from the player saying he doesn't feel well the day of the game, I just cannot see how he plays in this game. So I would have to go with Gesicki.
Okay.
Now, the question is really, if you look at the slate, and, I'm not really a redraft analyst, so when it comes to start sit, I don't look at the times of games that much, but this is kind of important. So you would have pivot options from the Lions and Rams. So I guess you would have Higbee. Hawkinson, you just play over Waller anyway at this point. I even if Waller were active, I would play Hawkinson over Waller. Like if the game were earlier and I knew Waller was going to play, I would probably have Waller at 5. Yeah. With Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, and Pitts ahead of him. I would have Waller at 5, given this injury. I had him at 2, obviously, behind Kelsey before. But given the pivot options, there are not going to be great pivot options. I mean, you could have Dallas Goedert, but in a redraft league, you're probably not going to have Waller and Goedert. So who are you going to go to? I mean, you could pick up Foster Moreau off waivers. Tyler Higbee is probably on a roster.
Yeah,
Hawkinson's
I think Komet, just because Komet's not been producing, but the peripheral's been fine. His target share is good. If Komet's there, I don't hate him as a pivot, just because he's been seeing a decent target share of like 15%, and the Tampa Bay game could force him into a passing game script because he can't run the ball in Tampa Bay and they'll take a lead early.
No, I agree. I like Komet as a play this week. This is a brutal situation. If you're like what if you're in a dynasty league and Waller is, let's say maybe your tight ends were Waller, Jared Cook, and Tyler Conklin, and then maybe you also had Dalton Schultz. Right. You had all those players, but 3 of them are on bye, and Waller's your only. It's a deep dynasty league. There's nothing else, and Waller's the only man standing. I mean, you're in a brutal situation.
Right.
I would just wait for Waller unless you could have. I think the last player I would put in above him, Goddard, you'll know because Goddard is later. Gesicki, I just said I would put above him. Next in my rankings would be Ricky Seals-Jones. I'd be fine with that, with just playing him and eliminating the risk. Tyler Higbee, you would know. And then Hunter Henry, no. I'll just wait for Waller and take my chances. So, unless you can pivot to Gesicki. Gesicki's a good question because he's the one I would actually pivot to now, clearly. But, this is going to be a big deal today. So just keep watching throughout the afternoon and be prepared to swap out Waller if you may need to. Trogdor, one of my biggest supporters. So I have regular people in these chats and other shows, and I always call them my biggest supporters. Trogdor is one of them. So looking for a PPR flex between Allen Robinson and Antonio Gibson.
I know. A lot of question marks, a lot of red flags.
The big thumbs down for these two. Well, did you rank? Do you have like numbered ranks for the week?
No, I don't.
Okay, so that's fine. So what would you say between these two? It's a tough decision. Both players are not doing so well, but both have good matchups. They have good matchups, so it's tough.
But the target share for Allen Robinson is good. It's not like 2020 Allen Robinson, but it'll do if the volume's fine. And then for Antonio Gibson,
the pie is small though.
Exactly.
Keep in mind that target share, and I always push back on this. I hate, if you notice, I just ignore target share. You never hear me talk about it because target share is meaningless without context. The Bears' target share is so tiny that I don't care that Allen Robinson has a big target share. He's been a failure.
But it's just the idea of like situation regression and that they can't stay at like 22 pass attempts per game forever because would be like the lowest in 50 years or something, or like.
I agree with you long term, yes, but I don't think Allen Robinson will be there to enjoy the regression that you're talking about. I think that regression is coming next year.
Yeah, week to week, you look at the overall volume more so.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on Justin Fields as like a dynasty buy. They're not going to not pass the ball.
Exactly.
But on Allen Robinson doesn't want to be there. This might be part of why.
Yeah, and he's not running as many routes as the year previously, I believe. And then Antonio Gibson has a problem with limited or possible re-injury during game.
Well, with a stress fracture, as someone who's had one recently, it can flare up at any time.
Right.
It can stop you from playing at any time, and you could have to exit the game at any time until he gets approximately 2 months of rest. And by rest, I mean not walking. So not playing football, not running, not doing drills, not walking. That's what he needs to do. So
I can't believe they're playing
that during the season. So Antonio Gibson, every week you have to understand one play out and then you got a 0 is a risk.
Yeah.
Not that Allen Robinson is particularly appealing. He's also on the injury report, but he's going to play. I mean, and so is Gibson. But
yeah, I wish they would sit Gibson. It would just be so much easier.
They need to sit him. Yeah. I said that myself. I said they should sit him for these 2 games in the bye week and see if 3 weeks maybe helps him. Because he's not going to be effective.
Right.
I have J.D. McKissick ranked ahead of Gibson this week.
Yeah, I agree, especially with all the injuries to the weapons there. It's going to be –
no Logan Thomas, no Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel's actually the big one. Right. No Curtis Samuel really opens the door for McKissick.
Right, because of the way they work in similar areas.
Exactly. And they also are willing to use McKissick at a receiver position.
Exactly. Receiver. So I think I'd lean Allen Robinson.
So would I.
Because you hope for a better game script against the Bucks, but then
it has to be a good game script for Allen Robinson against the Bucks. They're not going to win that game.
Definitely not. And then how Tampa Bay's run defense is so good and their pass defense has become so bad with the injuries to their cornerbacks.
It's been really bad. I mean, their pass defense wasn't that great last year. It was their run defense that was completely locked down.
It's just
pass defense was fine.
Getting worse this year, going back to like 2019 levels.
Yeah,
it makes for fantastic fantasy football because
last year it was like the whole defense was good, and it was like they retained the run defense part being good, but the pass defense not so good.
Yep.
And combine that with a positive game script for Fields coming from behind. I will also go Allen Robinson. To give people some numbers, I have Gibson at running back 20, so not high. Right. And Allen Robinson at wide receiver 25. So usually in a PPR, when you have guys in that range, it's typically going to be the receiver.
I feel like that's pretty high on Allen Robinson. Like, it's not something I disagree with just because I like the surrounding like variables around Allen Robinson this week, but seeing that he's not even had like a top 48 week so far this year.
This week is brutal.
I know.
This week is brutal. I mean, if you look at the guys in that range, I mean, right behind him comes Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs could do anything. I mean, Henry Ruggs could give you a 0 at any time, a 0. Then after that is Tyler Lockett. Oh, wait, do we want to start Tyler Lockett this week against New Orleans with Geno Smith? We don't want to do that. I mean, that. And then after that comes Julio Jones. Oh, I mean,
possible
Julio Jones could be one. Julio Jones is like Gibson this week with the hamstring, just instead of the shin. One play and then he's out. But he's playing Kansas City and it's Julio Jones, so can't rank him too low. And then after that, you get to like Hunter Renfrow. It's brutal. And Tyler Boyd. You want to start these guys? I mean, so Allen Robinson is kind of at 25 by default, but I do have Darnell Mooney higher than him this week. I have Darnell Mooney at 23.
It's unfortunate, but I get it. I mean, it's not something I overly agree with just because I think eventually Allen Robinson reasserts himself, but Mooney's been seeing similar targets and running more routes and has a more valuable targets, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, he does actually have more targets, more receptions, and more yards. So at some point, you have to come around. And also, Mooney was finally taken off the injury report with his back, whereas Robinson they've been managing his reps. So, in the past, I had preferred last couple of weeks, I preferred Robinson by a bit, but that's enough to swing it the other way for me and go with Mooney. I have Mooney at 23, Robinson at 25. So close. But if I'm going to lean with one of them, I'll go with the healthy guy. All right. Oh, well, we talked about this.
Yeah.
Alex Collins. Yeah. I would like to not play Alex Collins.
If I can, yes.
If there's any alternative, because you could find out at 4:00 on Monday that Alex Collins is not going to play. And then what do you do? So
you hope
I assume
waivers or something.
You hope, yeah, but he might not be.
Right. And then you're
people in the beginning of the week thought
they
thought that Collins was going to play. Yeah. Well,
I would say Corey Davis, I think.
You just play Corey Davis. Not that I want to play Corey Davis.
It's not like Alex Collins has a decent floor. He's a backup running back who wasn't playing for a year and then came back. He's just a benefit of the volume and the situation. He could do something, but coming with the injury and then the fact that we think he's probably not an overly talented running back, it's most likely that he has a low floor. So just play Corey Davis. Yeah. The matchup's bad for him, but really what
it is what it is, though, versus Alex Collins. All right, so Ramondre Stevenson from Derek or Devonta Freeman?
Devonta Freeman.
Yeah.
It could be Smith, but I think it's Freeman.
No, if he knows me. He wouldn't need to ask if it were Smith.
Yeah, that's true. I thought it was Smith when I first saw it, but you're probably right.
No, it's not.
I'd say Freeman. He'll get the start. He'll get
Derek's one of my big supporters too. He would, if he needed to ask if it were Devonta Smith or Ramondre Stevenson, we would have a problem. Then he wouldn't have learned anything. But this is a more reasonable question. It has to be Devonta Freeman, I guess.
I agree.
Just keep in mind that you could get a 0 from that. They could just decide that Tyson Williams is the starter again. Seriously, that's very possible. It's very possible that they could just decide that.
Right. And then for Ramondre, they could just decide Brandon Bolden's their receiving back now.
I know. I know. I have Devonta Freeman at running back 31 and Ramondre Stevenson at 34. So I don't want to start either of these guys, but I'll go with Devonta Freeman.
Right. I agree.
Yuck. Good morning. So I need two of from BJ. This is not good. So we need two of these. Gerald Everett. Okay, not him. Nyheim Hines.
Maybe.
David Johnson or Khalif Raymond. So gross.
Very good. Tennessee plays.
Raymond. No, that's Detroit. Detroit plays the Rams.
Damn journeyman. Yeah. I'd say. It's so gross.
This is awful.
Hines and.
Yeah, Hines is the easy one for me.
Yeah.
It's really between Johnson and Raymond. I'm not playing Everett.
Right, yeah. It's just.
Probably play Raymond, actually.
Yeah,
honestly.
I agree. I mean, Johnson's not getting any of the rushing work. He's just
not at all. No.
Occasional passing work, and then that's harder to count on. You just He could easily have like 2 targets or something, and then Raymond, he could also have 2 targets, I guess. But
Raymond's actually had decent amount of work, surprisingly.
Occasionally, he has a decent amount of work, but sometimes
surprisingly he's had more work than you think.
I know he had that one like 10 target game.
I know.
6 target game, but
he has 31 targets on the year. That's actually not bad. Could be worse.
This has kind of been their wide receiver 1A by default, I guess, just because of the
there's been no one.
Williams and then Amon-Ra St. Brown coming along slowly.
Yeah. I'll go with Raymond and Hines, but it's brutal. Brutal. Okay. Alex Collins from Bry Guy. Alex Collins, A.J. Dillon, or Hunter Henry in a PPR flex?
Henry.
Okay, well, Alex Collins, I don't think you can. I wouldn't advise. These options are good enough. I wouldn't advise waiting for Alex Collins. So forget him.
I agree.
Dillon or Henry. Now, I do like Dillon this week, actually. I do against Washington. I think it's going to be a positive game script. I think Dillon could get a good amount of work. Running back 29, though, it's kind of out of the range I want to start, and running backs in that range are really not high. So Hunter Henry's guaranteed a lot of volume, actually, at this point. I'll probably go with you and go with Henry. Yeah.
Jonnu is running less and less routes.
Jonnu's doing nothing. The $50 million. I said this from the beginning. I was like, he gave $50 million to someone who'd never produced anything in his career. Nothing at all.
That's what I said.
Oh, you did? Oh, we agree.
He had he like never had a 450 yards in the
season. He's never done anything. He's never done anything in his career at all, other than look athletic. That's all he's done.
He's athletic and he blocks well sometimes.
Well, that reminds me of someone that may play for the Giants who doesn't block well, but is always athletic and can't do anything. Who's injured this week, by the way. People think I have like an irrational hate of Evan Ingram because I find a way to bring up how horrible he is in every conversation, but he is horrible. He's the worst.
He's occasionally unproductive.
He's the bane of my existence as a Giants fan, and I think he should be out of the league. He's the worst.
Proves you wrong. Yeah.
I think they should start Kyle Rudolph. I think that would improve things. I really do, as a Giants fan. Seriously.
I'll refrain from commenting on that.
Kyle Rudolph can block better. But anyway, from Luke, we need a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex. Freeman, I guess that's Devonta Freeman. Collins again, we have a lot of him. Dillon, Corey Davis, Kirk, and Bateman. Okay, so let's try to pick a running back first. So running back from these three, Freeman, Dillon, and Collins, all of whom we've talked about a lot.
Freeman.
I should go with Dillon. Mm-hmm. I'm more confident that Dillon's going to get work than Freeman. I love Dillon.
Right? He's not really. He has been seeing a little bit of receiving work, but he's not really a receiving back.
Well, I just know that Dillon's going to get some carries. Something.
Right.
It's not going to be 0. Whereas Freeman could get 3 carries for 8 yards, and that's it. So I do know that Dillon is going to get something. So I'll go with him at the running back. And then receivers, these are very close in my rankings. Mm-hmm. They're within 6 spots, but I do have Davis the highest of these 3.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that it's like Kirk rotating in and out of the slot with Rondale Moore, which isn't great because
they're playing Houston.
So it sometimes takes him off the field too much for my liking, but sometimes he's not leaving the field. So there's been games where he sees like 70-80% route participation. There's games where he sees like 50. So
I know. And then for a flex, it's going to be another receiver. So Kirk or Bateman?
I say Kirk.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have Davis at wide receiver 32, Kirk at 34, and Bateman at 38.
Yeah. I like Bateman. He's really just.
I like Bateman. People have just decided that I'm Rashad Bateman's biggest hater.
Yeah, because you're not as high as everyone else, right?
I don't get it. I've never gotten it. I don't get it. I didn't get it before. People.
I hope I'm right, which means hopefully he'll show it. So
people are obsessed with this guy. I don't like. What did he do to earn
his
that?
name sounds like Batman. Okay.
Is that all it is? I mean, I like him, but like people have like an irrational love for Rashad Bateman that I just do not understand. Like I don't dislike him. I think I'm seeing what he really is, and other people are like, "This is the best receiver prospect ever," and I'm like, "No, no way."
Before he was 6 foot 195, I thought he was like the second coming of Devontae Adams' college profile because of the production and the fact that he was 6'2", 210. But then he comes out as not an alpha, and he's like 6 foot 190, which is fine. It's just below my thresholds, and it's still good. It still has him as a really good player, but his profile was so much better before he was a beta.
It's funny because I care zero about how big someone is.
I know,
and that is not why I don't like her. That's not why I was never. I wasn't. I did. That's not why I was not in on Rashad Bateman.
Right.
It's not because he was that size. I don't care. I mean, you must know that I don't care because I was very high on Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle. So clearly I don't care about how big.
Size doesn't really matter for overall success. It really just matters for I think it just matters for ceiling based on what I've seen. So
yeah, no, I had Bateman 5th, blind, like draft capital blind. I mean, Chase was won by like 20 miles. And then I thought that Smith, Waddle, Rondale Moore, and Bateman were all similar, but I had them. Actually, I had Rondale Moore 2nd, then Smith, Waddle, and Bateman 5th.
I love Rondale early on, and then Bateman was like in January, February, March, like my 1B to Chase. So
I love Rondale Moore. I've always loved Rondale Moore.
Yeah,
he's the one that I've always had like a soft spot for.
He's terrific.
He really is. I want to see him. I want to see this against Houston. I mean, he's someone I'm surprised. Oh, we will actually about to get to him. A couple questions from now. Okay, so from Derek again. So Amon-Ra, Khalil Herbert, or Collins. So just forget Collins. There's no reason to risk it with Collins. So between Amon-Ra and Khalil Herbert in a PPR flex, who would you take there?
Amon-Ra.
Really?
Yeah. Because Damian Williams is back, and the matchup and the fact that Damian Williams will probably see more of the receiving work than Khalil Herbert, it's really just hope Herbert falls into the end zone, which you can't really hope for. But when they played, they split 50-50 carries, right?
Yeah.
Basically 50-50. It was like 55-45. But
that was in the past. That was before Herbert played this game without Damian Williams and looked really good.
Well, yeah.
And there was a report from the Chicago beat that Herbert has overtaken Williams for the backup job.
Wow, I hope so. That'd be terrific for my dynasty teams to have him as like a true cuff. That'd be nice. But
well, you see that teams get mad at players who didn't take the vaccine, right? The players who didn't take the vaccine, the teams get mad at them, especially when it causes them to miss time. And that's what now he was missing more time. So I think that Khalil Herbert's going to be the lead back this week, but the matchup sucks.
Yeah.
I will say that Amon-Ra is the first receiver this week that I do not want to start at all. He's at wide receiver 42. There were 41 guys I was okay with. He's the first one that I'm really not. So I'll go with Khalil Herbert.
That doesn't, like at first it doesn't seem like too bad, but because like I'm not high on him or anything, but it's by Apocalypse. The volume has been okay, I guess. I don't know. They're both
just okay.
It's just been okay. And he's really just like Hunter Renfrow 2.0 in that he's by default seeing the volume as almost their wide receiver 1, like Renfrow was with the Raiders in 2019. And
yeah. But it's really close because Amon-Ra is like the teardrop in wide receivers, and after Khalil Herbert for me is the teardrop in running backs this week. So if you went down one more running back to Myles Gaskin, it would be Amon-Ra. Because I do not want to start Myles Gaskin. Okay, Lefty Geo. Okay, here we are. PPR flex, Booker or Rondale Moore?
Booker.
Yeah, Booker. I have Booker running back 17. Rondale Moore at wide receiver 36. So.
Yeah, Booker's seeing vast majority of carries, vast majority of routes, and
everything essentially.
Yeah.
Elijah Penny got a couple of touches, but that was late in the game. Game was already over.
Right, it's Booker, and Rondell Moore is just like right now he's just a part-time player, and he occasionally
with Zach Ertz. Don't forget about Zach Ertz coming in.
That means more. That means less.
Less, yeah. Less for them, but I mean Max Williams was there in the beginning of the season, and
right, which is what kept Rondell Moore off the field. Because they were burning 11 personnel.
I do love Rondell Moore long term, but this year might be a little inconsistent.
Right.
Okay, from Damien. If Waller is out, I do think Waller will be out at this point. So you have to choose between, Foster Moreau, O.J. Howard, or C.J. Uzama. Well, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to put in Howard or Uzama because you're not going to know in time. You will know with Howard, but you're not going to be able to put in Uzama.
Yeah, but I wouldn't play him anyway. I'd say Moreau. I think. Yeah. Take Uzama.
I would say Howard, but you'll be able to wait.
Braid's really the tight end one there, I believe.
No, Howard outproduced him in the last game. He had more
to the end zone, right? But
but he finally got more involved in last time. He was struggling to get into the offense, but I'm pretty sure last week he finally got the real. Or was that 2 weeks ago? No, it was last week.
Yeah,
he
to the end zone.
I mean,
Braid's running more routes like every single week, so I really still think he's the tight end one there. But I think
I do like
lucky with how he fell into the end zone. I really think it's great in Tampa, so I'd go Moreau.
I don't want to go Moreau at all. So
I don't want to go Howard, and you can't go Uzama.
I have Howard at 16 this week, so clearly I don't agree. I just think that with the real key for me is that Antonio Brown is out. Yeah. So if Antonio Brown is out and Gronk is out, I think Howard. I mean, Howard was playing, 60% snap share really in the 3 weeks Gronk has been out. I think that's going to go up to somewhere in the 80s. And you can say routes, but if you're on the field, that means you have an opportunity to score points because the play could have been a run and then it changes to a pass and then you were out there, you run a check and release route or something, flare route or whatever it is. And then you can score even if it was kind of by mistake. So with AB out, I would go Howard, but I hope you can go Waller. That would be nice, but I don't think it. Okay, Dynasty question. It's good. I was offered Mitchell and a 23-second for Fournette. Thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Just at first, it doesn't seem like it. The rest of the season, Lenny should be a workhorse.
Yeah, he will be.
And he's 26, so.
Yeah, I don't think
super young, but I see Elijah Mitchell as the guy, but not in any way that overly matters, just because neither is getting neither him or Sermon gets passing work.
Sermon gets nothing, so he's irrelevant.
Juszczyk's their receiving back. He's been running.
He has been, yeah.
Right, and then.
But they don't throw a running back anyway.
Right.
That's a Shanahan thing.
Yeah, Mitchell, and then a 23-second. It's a second. I know.
I like it,
good, but
I like that though. Right. I mean, look, if you're, this isn't the kind of trade I would want to do if you're rebuilding. But if you're rebuilding, now's the time to get rid of Leonard Fournette because one injury and he's worthless. Yeah. So you shouldn't keep him on your team if you're rebuilding. But if you're rebuilding, why are you targeting a running back? I would try to get something else.
Get a wide receiver.
Like, how about this? Instead of Elijah Mitchell in a 23-second, how about let me go to where Elijah Mitchell is in my dynasty rankings and look at other players I would like. How about, there are not a lot of players in that value range that I want. Could you get, this is probably optimistic, but could you get Michael Gallup in a 23-second for Leonard Fournette?
Yes, I know you don't like Juju, but he's thirdly cheap.
Juju, no, I don't want Jag Smith average poisoning my dynasty teams.
OBJ.
Oh, no. If you're rebuilding, I don't want OBJ.
It's really just the value, because like my evaluation of OBJ is that people are souring on him way too quickly. It's plummeting his value,
It's
and
5 years.
It's not going to be able to use like his production to compete in a couple of years, but you can use the value that will turn around eventually, because we probably know that he's not going to stick around long in Cleveland. And
I just think Odell's finished, personally. Like, it's just but it's too many excuses. I mean, it's years of excuses and years of injuries. I mean, the last time Odell was really Odell was what? The 2018 before he got hurt?
You don't need him to be Odell Beckham, like top 5, top 12 OBJ to pay off. You just need him to be decent wide receiver 2 production. I mean,
but he's not going to be. There's something. This is something you won't see in the numbers, and it's this almost makes me sound like more like someone commentating on ESPN than on this channel. But it's the kind of thing where it's just I know with someone like Odell that once Odell isn't Odell, he's not going to be half of Odell. It's going to be a disaster. It's the kind of thing. He's that kind of guy. He's that kind of guy where if he can't do it and be Odell, he's going to be frustrated. He's going to be unhappy. He's not going to produce. He's someone you won't see it in the numbers, I know, but he's someone I want away from my team completely. He is someone I have no interest in at all.
From him.
He's done. I personally think Odell is done. I think Odell is done.
I get bad vibes about him too. I just try to.
There's something wrong with Odell that we don't know. I said the same thing about Ronald Jones. There's something wrong with Ronald Jones that we don't know. I don't know if it's an injury. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know what it is, but there's something that is not priced into the numbers that people like you are crunching. It's not there. You can look for it, but you won't find it. There's something wrong with, and I price that in heavily when I have that suspicion. So that's why guys like Odell Beckham, Ronald Jones, there are a couple other players where there's something wrong. Kenny Golladay, there's something else. It's not just the hip and the knee injury. There's something wrong with Kenny Golladay. Like there's an issue.
Mentally?
No. There could be an injury. It's either mental or an injury we don't know about. Injury we don't know about. That's it's often a chronic injury, and you find out about it later. You find out about it later that, he was managing this for like a year, and that's why he didn't. But it's never going to stop him from playing, so it doesn't get listed on the injury report. Because if it's not a threat to stop you from suiting up that week, it doesn't go on the injury report.
Yeah. So then after the year when that comes out, then people have their built-in excuse,
But then people panic when they hear it. Like, I'd rather, if I think that it's there and I want to get out before the value drops, because once it becomes public, then the value's gone.
And then that's why you don't like Michael Thomas as much.
There's something very wrong with Michael Thomas. Very wrong.
We know about it. This is the other side of what you said, where we already know about the injury that was lingering.
No. There's more issues with Michael Thomas. There's more issues. Yeah. There are issues between Michael Thomas and the Saints front office that have not completely been made public.
Yeah, definitely. He was venting when all that came out at the beginning, and then it's kind of cooled down.
Whereas,
I just buy talent, I guess, and hope it produces, because talent typically rises.
Talent can't produce if it doesn't get on the field. That's the problem.
Right. But Michael Thomas will get on the field eventually for someone, because
maybe he will.
If the Saints absolutely hate him and are completely done with him, then they'll trade him or cut him, and then he'll immediately sign with someone and produce. Or they'll toughen it out because he'll produce extremely well when he's healthy. They'll just say, whatever, we don't like you right now. If they don't like him, they'll be like, we don't like you right now, but just go out there and play well, and we'll deal with this at the end of the year when we can let you go or something. I just
know that we're going to regret. This reminds me of having OBJ 2 years ago. Like, I just know that Michael Thomas is not going to work out.
Right.
Like, it's just the kind of thing where you can't see it, but
so going.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing in Dynasty to explain to people, because I can't show you numbers. I can't tell you why, other than that
You're just
He's
leaning into your
injured.
experience.
The vibe is very bad. And trust me, get out. He won't have the dynasty value anymore because people are going to start to pick up on the vibe like I have. And the value is going to drop.
Right. You're just leaning into your experience. I get it.
Exactly. It's the hardest thing. Whereas, like, players who are not performing because their coach doesn't like them or the offensive scheme, those players are more likely to be forgiven. Like Brandon Ayuk, if Brandon Ayuk starts producing again, he'll be forgiven because I really don't think there's anything wrong with Brandon Ayuk. Definitely. I think it's just not coming together for him. But I don't think Brandon Ayuk is secretly injured anymore.
Right.
Or maybe he was, but I don't think he is anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he forgot how to play football. I think it's not
about that. Yeah. I still think he's a good football player.
I do too. And I think he has a bright future, but for some reason this year is not coming together for him. So that's the kind of player I'm more interested in buying, but it's also a youth thing. I'm always going to be more interested in a young player who's suddenly not producing than an old one.
Right, I agree. So going back to the trade, if you're heavily rebuilding, you need to offload Fournette like now.
I would. I would, yeah.
Right. And then
why don't you try to trade him for Brandon Ayuk? Why don't you try to trade him for Brandon Ayuk then? That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Ayuk, how about that? Okay, that's our idea then.
Ayuk, yeah, and then the other guys in that range are like Elijah, or Rondale, or Marshall, Myers.
You won't get Rondale.
I don't think Rondale, but maybe more Elijah, Marshall, Myers.
I don't want. I need something with those guys.
Yeah, bro.
Ayuk, I would take straight up.
Right, you need a pick or something.
Yeah, with those guys. Like it could be a second and Elijah.
Get those guys and a second, and then give Fournette and a third or something.
Yeah, I mean Elijah Moore and Marshall have done nothing, so you might be able to get them in a second.
People expect too much too early from these guys.
I expect more than what I've seen from Terrace Marshall has actually been fine. Elijah Moore's
been fine too. He's just been missed on some throws and then missed some time. They both had concussions. So
I expect I've not been happy with Elijah Moore. Terrace Marshall
nearby from what
not been happy with. But I expected a lot more from Elijah Moore than I did from Terrace Marshall. So that's probably why I'm not happy.
There's a lot of growing pains in New York. I don't think people expected Zach Wilson to. I know some people didn't like Zach Wilson, but some people expected
Zach Wilson
to still support Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, which didn't make sense from the go because he's a rookie. But over the season, the whole offense will get better. The passing game will eventually not be the way it is now. So
I just expected Elijah Moore to do more, to be better, and he hasn't done anything.
He just has to flash something, and then.
Well, he hasn't done that, so we'll see if he doesn't. Gaskin or Dillon?
Gaskin,
but
Gaskin, and hope that he gets like 6 checkdowns.
Hope this is the week, yeah. But
he doesn't even need receiving work. He doesn't even need rushing work. He might see rushing work, but if your choice is Dillon or him, it's Gaskin because
Gaskin,
4 to 6 checkdowns.
This is terrible. Ed likes the trade. Oh, okay. PPR 1.25 for running back, 2 PPR for tight end.
Oh my.
Well, it's not Ramondre Stevenson.
No, I'd say.
Well, no, it's not Ramondre Stevenson because the sleeper alert says today's inactives include Patriots running back Ramondre Stevenson.
That's insane.
Yes, really.
Wow.
Really? Yes, really. Not good.
Well,
yeah, Shepard. So Shepard didn't play. Parker, we knew would be out. Coleman being out doesn't matter.
Stevenson's out. So yeah, that's an easy choice.
Well, that's easy. Yeah, the decision was just made for you.
Kevin Coleman out. Curtis Samuel, we already knew that.
No, I think the only ones that really were in question were Stevenson and Shepard. Well, Stevenson wasn't really for me. I don't understand why he's inactive. They're making him a healthy scratch again?
What? Strange. I guess the return of J.J. Taylor.
I guess, okay. Well, this decision was made for you. Easy enough. Gibson or Higgins? PPR.
Higgins.
Yeah, take Higgins. Same reasoning about Gibson as before. Need to start an RB2 out of Khalil Herbert, Damian Williams. Well, you don't need to worry about Ramondre Stevenson.
Ramondre. And then
so Khalil versus Damian then.
Khalil versus Damian. Lean Damian.
Really? I mean, I'm always going to go with what I saw last week.
Yeah.
Last week, I'm going to go with the guy who got the work last week. If I didn't get that thing that the beat reporters were like, Khalil Herbert is the starter now and will retain work when Montgomery comes back, I might agree with you, but to me, it's very clear that Khalil Herbert is their starter until Montgomery comes back. And Damian Williams did nothing for a week and a half and just came off the COVID list yesterday. He's not ready. What's up?
Didn't he score a touchdown?
Khalil?
Damian.
No. I mean, he did nothing in practice. He didn't practice. He was on the COVID list for a week and a half. He hasn't done anything. He just showed up yesterday at like 4:00.
Yeah, you're 100%.
So he did not participate in any of the practice for this game.
Yeah.
So I can't possibly go with the guy who is the worst player and didn't participate in any practice this week. I mean, there's just no way that he's going to come in and just get the majority of work. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's going to be the guy who was there all week.
If he's not participating in practice, I don't see how they can implement.
Well, he couldn't have. He was on the COVID list, so
I don't see how they could
allowed to be at the facility.
I don't see how they could implement design.
Yeah, how could they have gotten him in the game plan? Really, He didn't get to take any reps this week. So
especially in the receiving game, because you got to design that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to play Damian Williams at all this week. I have Damian Williams at running back 32.
Yeah, you make a good point. I'd say, Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't. It's even worse with the COVID list than with an injury, because with an injury, you can still come in and work on the side and see what your teammates are doing. With the COVID list, you can't come into the facility at all.
Right.
If you can't come into the facility at all, then you're literally just not part of the plan. So I actually worry about starting Damian Williams at all. I mean, I honestly think running back 32 might be too high now that I think about it.
I get it, yeah. Go Khalil.
I have to take Ramondre Stevenson out of it. I can't believe he's a healthy scratch. I don't get it. They're playing the Jets. They don't. This is really annoying. They must hate him. I'm tired of Bill Belichick and some of this bullshit that he pulls. It's really pissing me off. It's not like I was a Ramondre Stevenson truther. I thought he was good. I thought he was good, not great. I thought he deserved to be picked in the 4th round. I thought that was about right. And I was like, oh, this guy deserves a legitimate chance to get some carries in the NFL.
It's like, there's not much to like about him. So you're like, oh, it's a guy from.
But there's also not much to dislike about him.
Right.
There's not much to dislike. I don't think he's bad. He wasn't.
He just seems like a average guy, a backup with decent size who can occasionally come in.
Who could come in if there were an injury to the starter and take a workhorse role for a game or two because he has the body to do it.
Makes sense to me.
And I just am a little bit pissed off that he's not even getting a chance. That's more what I'm saying. I wish this Bill Belichick coaching staff is just sometimes as people worship at their altar. And I'm like, really? Look at the track record actually, and don't just look at the Super Bowls and sometimes.
Right.
But also Bill Belichick is a defensive minded coach, right? Yeah. His defense is good, but sometimes the offenses that he calls are not.
It's just been Brady.
Not so good.
Right. It's just been
but he is one of the best defensive coaches of all time. That's unquestionable to me.
Yeah. But then you see some of the decisions spending. Well, the first for N'Keal Harry was good at the.
Well, time. No. There's a big difference between Bill Belichick, the general manager, who awful, and Bill lately, at least,
right?
And Bill Belichick, the head coach. Those are two very different things. Bill Belichick, the general manager, has been terrible lately. And Bill Belichick, the head coach, has been good on defense, but not so good on offense lately.
Oh my God. A first on N'Keal Harry, a second on the move.
The funny thing is, the Sanu trade was worse. The N'Keal Harry pick, N'Keal Harry was
it seemed like a good pick at the time.
Anyone telling you that N'Keal Harry was a bad prospect is just lying to you. Yeah. N'Keal Harry was essentially a bulletproof prospect based on his profile, and he just didn't work out. He was a great prospect. There was nothing wrong with him. It just didn't happen.
Really,
there are busts.
Yeah.
There are busts, right? There are busts that happen all the time. He was a great prospect, just didn't work out.
Yeah, and then the millions of dollars for the tight ends. all of that.
What about $13 million a year for Nelson Aguilar? How is that going?
And then how much for Kendrick Bourne, right?
It was money for why?
All of that just for Jacoby Myers.
How about spend some money on a running back? Why didn't they? They could have used a running back. They didn't do anything with a running back, and now they didn't spend money. They wasted a lot of money on a receiver. I had 2 receivers and 2 tight ends that they're not really using. They're using Hunter Henry appropriately and not using anyone else really.
They've been using him better over the last few games.
Well, what I mean is they're at least using Hunter Henry how he's supposed to be used, but they're misusing everyone else. Yeah. Okay, Debo or Hollywood this week?
We missed the question about the Saints D or Panthers D, right?
Oh, I usually I don't know. I'll take the Saints defense against Gino.
I'll take the Carolina defense against Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but clearly it's not our area of expertise. Yes, Stevenson is slacking in the pass blocking game, but I thought he did enough. I mean, come on, he should not be inactive. This is misuse of players. If you put them in the doghouse, then how are they going to get any confidence? I don't like that.
I don't like that.
No, I don't like that at all. He's a rookie. Give him a chance. It's not like they have great options on the bench. Are Brandon Bolden and JJ Taylor really are those the solutions to your problem?
I'd rather have I think Bolden plays some special teams, right? So that's why he's active. But
yeah, but JJ Taylor just sucks.
I'd rather let Stevenson develop.
Yeah, I mean it makes no sense. Debo or Brown this week? Debo. The weather there is really bad.
That's what I've heard. But
Debo gets some targets. I've lowered Debo in my ranks, but not enough.
The weather's like that, but
it's really bad. We're talking like hurricane style.
Someone said like a cyclone or something.
Cyclone, yeah. I mean, I'll still go with Debo, but I mean Debo's ECR was wide receiver 6. Yeah. I've now dropped him all the way to 13.
Makes sense. Still very good.
Not that I had him lower to begin with. I only started with him, I think, at 8 or 9.
I would never put him at 6. Like I don't do rankings, but like thinking about the options for this week, I wouldn't put him at 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But with the weather, I've just lowered him a little bit to 13. But Hollywood, I do like Hollywood this week. I have him at 15. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I would like to play Hollywood, but I would like to find a way to play both of these guys, really. I mean, the wide receiver 13 and 15 on this kind of week, usually are both going to be starting for you.
Yeah, who are your options, man?
Yeah, I know.
Brandon,
one of my friends from real life, wow. Gus, welcome. So, yeah, Higgins or Myers have Jacoby Myers, half PPR. Jacoby. I have these guys very close.
I say Jacoby.
Yeah, I rank PPR. So I have Myers at 20 and Higgins at 22, but since it's only half, I'll flip it and go with Higgins because the odds Higgins scores are way higher. So in only half, I care about the volume a little bit less, so I'll go with Higgins. It's very close, though. Very close. Yes. I don't think you can really make a mistake. I mean, you can always make a mistake, but I don't think this is a big decision. I think they're very close to go with Higgins.
Yeah. Just go with whoever has the highest start percentage or something. Crowd's right most of the time.
That's okay. That's very true.
Yeah.
And people are like consensus sucks. Consensus is the worst. And I'm like, do better. Do better. You go do better. Do better. And you know what? If you could really do better, you wouldn't be here talking to me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here. If you could do that much better, you wouldn't be here talking to me. You'd be rich. You'd be rich. You would have made a bunch of money in Vegas. No one would be like, if you could really do that much better, you wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
The crowd wisdom gets wiser and wiser every year.
Yep. Or Hollywood. And that's the same guy who has Debo.
Yeah, Hollywood. Cooks is not bad.
Cooks has been terrific. His target share is like 37. Whopper.
I know. You can get taken down by Davis Mills anyway.
I know you can. I can't wait for when Tyrod gets back. Cooks is a must start every week just because he'll be a low wide receiver 1 or something.
Yeah, his best games came in the parts where he had Tyrod.
Yeah,
Davis and then his 2
fine. Davis
his 2 really bad games came with Mills. Not really bad,
but they're not horrible. It was just games where he saw.
They were not horrible, but they weren't.
Some of the targets he didn't catch. But then I would say I think I'd lean Cooks the overwhelming volume offsets the inaccuracy because eventually it'll connect on something.
Yeah. I'm a pretty big Hollywood believer, if that's not obvious.
Jacoby.
Yeah. It has to be.
That's an easy one. I mean, they're close to like in yours, right? They're like
close, but it's not that
25, but it's really Jacoby.
They're not close.
He's help.
I love it. McKissick, Gibson, or Freeman?
Gibson.
McKissick and Gibson. It's against Green Bay. I mean, they're gonna have to use them both.
You hope one gets some big holes to run through, and you hope the other gets a bunch of targets funneled.
I mean, Freeman can give you a big 0.
Yeah.
So
Freeman's range of outcomes is like probably like his 5% to 95% range of outcomes is 0 to 40 yards and a touchdown, and that's like 10 points, and that's
he could the upper range is that he could fall into the end zone twice.
Right. I'm saying that's his 95 percentile outcome.
No. You're right. That the most of the range of outcomes is poor, but you have that. The reason why I still have him decently high is
he's a starter for a team
that fall in twice on the Ravens offense that's going to score a lot of points and likes to run. So it's possible. It's also possible Tyson Williams or Le'Veon Bell gets both of those goal line carries, and then you're left with nothing.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Thank you. No man bun today because my hair's still wet, but yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good way to get your comment read. Okay, we have a couple of these, which I'll put up for you. Renfro or Goddard? I thought this was interesting.
Goddard.
Yeah,
without Ertz's routes go up, and then
I forget what I said on Twitter actually in response to this. Because usually I don't like to flex tight ends.
Really?
I love Renfro.
Think of him as a big wide receiver, really.
Yeah, but I don't think of him that way because he's not. He's not.
He's
not. Like Noah Fant is. Evan Ingram, you can think of as a wide receiver. Gesicki is really this year is playing as a wide receiver. Goddard is not.
He has always played as a wide receiver. Fant, I wish they would use him as a wide receiver, but they use him in line so much that it caps his ceiling.
Well, sure, but for different reasons, I think of those guys as wide receiver. Goddard is not.
No,
Goddard is not and never has been.
He's not like slow or anything.
No, I didn't say he was slow.
I know. I'm saying
tight end. Goddard is not a receiver playing at tight end. Goddard is a tight end.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the only thing. And I don't dislike him this week. I would love to play him. I have him at tight end 7. But I think I go with Renfro. With Waller hurting and the matchup against Philly, not that the matchup against the Raiders is bad. I just in the same game here. I'll go with Renfro.
Like if Ertz was still there, I would actually say Renfro, but without Ertz, it really just becomes Goddard as the only tight end. And if you're on the field if you're on the field almost 100% of the time, it typically leads to production. So
I know. I have some concerns though. I'm not as confident as I once was.
What are your concerns?
With Goddard. My concerns is that Jalen Hurts sucks.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree there.
He sucks.
But it's just like
for passing the ball, he sucks. For fantasy, he's fine. I'd start Jalen Hurts.
We should have an inkling that he is not terrific at passing the ball, but I don't know. It's a tight end. What's his 8 out's got to be like 8 or something, right?
It's low. Yeah.
How hard can it be?
The problem is that some of these passes are so bad. I don't care how short they are. They're so bad.
Yep.
I mean, last week he was Ertz in the lineup instead of Goddard because Goddard was on the COVID list.
Yep.
But some of these passes, he was targeting Ertz, and
I know. Like
one that I remember
there was a screen that was above Ertz's head, and he had to catch it like this. It was on the screen.
And he caught it anyway. But there was another one where Ertz was near the sideline, and the pass was nowhere in the vicinity. So, I wish that Hurts were a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, and then data is like 3. It's not 3. It's like 6.3. So
that's actually for a tight end.
It's low.
But it's low. But for Goddard and his play style, it's actually not that low.
I know that's just Dallas Goddard.
Kind of makes sense, honestly.
I'd say Goddard because he's on the field a bunch, and then he's gonna.
I think it's a close decision, honestly. Waller hurting makes it easier for me to go Renfro. Because if Waller misses the game, then for me it would easily be Renfrow.
Will they play at the?
Well, that's the same. These two are in the same game.
In the same window. Oh yeah, they're at the same.
You'll know. So. Yeah. Last one. And we'll make this last one. From M. Yeckersley, who said that my hair was glorious. So appreciate that. The semi-redundancy. Oh, actually, this is good because they're on the same range. Booker, McKissick, or Gibson? Pick two. They are all in the same range.
I might say bench Gibson. I might.
I would have to.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
The floor is terrible for Gibson, and then
McKissick, I think, is going to have a great game. Personally,
I think so too. I think he has a great shot.
I'm more confident. I'd rather know I'm getting 15 touches from Booker than maybe get 15 touches from a hobbled Gibson who did not look effective. He was not effective last.
Like pain management, definitely.
Not all pain management with a stress fracture though. That's like a rib thing is pain management. You can play through it at a relatively decent effectiveness, and it just hurts.
Right. But then like on the shin.
Right. With a stress fracture though, anywhere in your leg, it's not just pain management. You will be ineffective.
Okay.
So I don't see personally the fact that, and I said this before on every show that I've been on this week, I do not understand how Antonio Gibson is playing this week. He should not be. They need to shut him down right now. Because the stress fracture can break.
Right. If he continues to play and it breaks and he gets seriously hurt, a stress fracture can turn into a fracture. Right, exactly.
That would be bad. That would be really bad. That would be out for the year. That would affect his next year.
Yeah, take him out for the
season. That would affect his career. I just think that this is a player who, no, he's not Christian McCaffrey. He's not going to be that guy. I said that before the season, and nothing I've seen has changed my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's bad. I think he's an important part of their offense. This is a lost season. Why are you forcing out an injured player in a lost season?
I know.
Who can aggravate this injury and screw up his career?
I just put him on.
I'm honestly very upset with them that they're doing this. I would
rather have the weekly dance that we had with Mixon last year than him continue to play and possibly risk his season.
I agree. He needs to be shut down for multiple weeks. And then we'll do this last one. Devontae's out to Parker, that is. Should I play Gainwell, Westbrook, Akina, or Nico Collins? I guess Nico Collins,
Gainwell.
Right? Gainwell? Gainwell's been getting no touches at all.
I know.
Sanders'
his snap percentage has been going down. It's just bad.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's bad. So not Gainwell is a complete no-go for me. I guess I'll go Collins, but I don't want to play any of these guys.
Really? I don't know. How much has he really been on the field? I know he missed time.
Collins had a big game last week.
He just got back. Really? Did he have a big game? I thought he had 3 catches.
I mean,
a big game for him. Oh, he had 6 targets. Okay.
It's bigger than anything Kenneth Gainwell has done anytime recently.
Right. Yeah. Gainwell
cannot play Kenneth Gainwell.
Gainwell was a lot better in week 3 or 4 when he was 50 snaps.
I have Kenneth Gainwell at running back 39 this week, so I'm completely out. I'll play almost any wide receiver over him.
I had to throw him in a lineup where it's no one. Literally, my bench is all buys.
It's that or nothing. Yeah. Well, then you have to. But for me, I like Nico Collins. They're going to be playing from way behind.
Imagine right when I drop him in Scott Fishbowl, he breaks out. Imagine.
I know. I mean, it's not like I'm that. I mean, I have Nico Collins at wide receiver 57, but
really,
I'd rather play him than Kenneth Gainwell. I think is basically a guaranteed 0, or close to it. So I don't know. No part of Kenneth Gainwell for me.
Right.
So
I was never high on Nico.
I was a little bit, but not super
He was
high.
never that productive, and then he was always. And then he was a 3rd rounder. So
I'd kind of given up on him, and then he came back in, and he actually looked good. So he looked good in addition to getting some targets and receptions. So I like that he looked the part. So
there's upside.
I'd rather take my chances on him than these other Gainwell or Westbrook. Akina is just a waste of time. So we don't want to play.
What are you doing with Westbrook?
No, we don't need to play.
Akina, he
doesn't deserve to be talked about.
No, he doesn't. You're just okay, let's. I don't know. You gotta hope. No one hopes for this because it would.
Also, Julio's playing, so
you gotta hope Julio aggravates his hand.
Julio's playing, so there's no
AJ
point.
and Julio are playing, so it's how is
there's nothing there. Well, anyway, tell the people one last time where they can find your work and all that, and then we'll close the show.
Yeah, I'm Akash. Find me on Twitter at @wazir_fantasy. And
Right there.
if you feel like spending a little bit of money, I guess, for content, you can find me on the Bulletproof Fantasy Football Discord for Patreon for
I love
patrons. And then you can find that by going to DFB Encounters Twitter, I guess, and it's pretty cheap. And then there's a bunch of content there. Drew's always working, and then there's me. I'm always talking Dynasty in my channel, and there's also Dynasty_IM, Cooper Adams, who does great work on Twitter too, and
my DLF colleague.
Yeah. Yep. We're always. It's really a great bang for your buck, just because you have four really good analysts always talking about Dynasty Fantasy Football, always there to answer your questions for like $8.
This is why it's so tough for me to sell my Patreon. It's just me. It's just me alone. But I think I'm great. So if you like,
too.
But yeah, I won't plug my stuff. My Twitter's right there. If you just follow me, you'll find all of it. I plug it all the time, so take a break from that today. So thanks to everyone for listening. Hopefully you win your matchups today and the Bipocalypse didn't kill you.
Yes.
Peace.
It's gonna be a fun week.
Yep.